Hi, I'm Jenna Cameron with Mediflixx, and I have the pleasure of being here with Matthew Hayes. He's the president and creator of ScanLab. Matt, thanks so much for your time today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for coming over.
Of course. So, talk to me just a little bit about ScanLab and what inspired you to start this business.
Yeah, sure. ScanLab is basically a 3D video game that the closest thing we can describe it as is a simulator. But I think it's way more than that.
Are there controllers?
No, well, a mouse.
Okay.
We want it to be as lifelike as possible. So since we are scanning an MRI and CT simulators, and how we use the CT machine is always based on mouse and keys on a keyboard.
And that makes sense. Make sure that the user is learning on the exact same kind of controller they're going to be using every day, which is a mouse.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And the whole point of all this is that learning at an MRI machine is very costly. If you're scanning real life patients, the stakes are pretty high. Every second, every minute counts when you're actually scanning real life patients. MRI machines, on day one, you sit there and you're expected to know 100 different parameters.
Which is impossible.
Which is impossible. And that really leads people to digress back into just pushing buttons.
Because that feels safe, right?
Yeah.
It's comforting.
Yeah, and you really can't tailor the examination to your patient or to different possible scenarios there. You're still expected to if everything goes wrong, but in real life, we're not allowed to practice, especially CT. We're injecting maple syrup that's not great for you and into patients while using radiation. So we wanted to really break down the way that people learn, segment it into smaller, more bite-sized concepts, but also make it to where it's readily accessible from any computer in any language. So it's no longer that geographic specificity that you need to be in a certain area to be able to get better at your job.
Yeah, a lot of people in like the teleradiology space, they like that because it provides access, right, to patients to receive the right kind of care at the right time. But this actually it sounds like to me, makes all people who are operating CT, MRI machines actually better. So it actually elevates everybody who is a practitioner of any kind, CT or MRI, which is a beautiful mission, actually educating and making people proficient and more confident in their job.
I think that's really our core mission at ScanLab, is to break down the stigma behind all of these parameter manipulations, make it stress-free, make it fun, make it interactive, and make it to where you can really arrive on day one, having never scanned anyone in real life, for instance, but you can arrive as an asset rather than as a liability. No one wants to be bad at their job.
Yeah. And nobody wants to just be something like a button pusher. Each one of us wants to feel confident and passionate in what we're doing.
That's
and
right.
It sounds like you want to help that be a reality for everyone. So
I really, really do.
Wonderful mission.
And really attack the lack of standardization that exists throughout the field. As of right now, especially in MRI, since there's no ionizing radiation per se, still radiation, just not ionizing, a lot of people back in the day just said, it's fine, just do whatever you want. So if I had a tumor and you and 5-10 other people are going to scan me across time to measure if that tumor is large or small, everyone's going to angle slightly differently. And that makes it really hard for pharmaceutical studies, for any kind of longitudinal studies. How can a radiologist measure correctly if every single time that I'm scanned, a different person is scanning me differently?
So you're really just trying to create standardization in the space that has never existed before and didn't exist when you were learning, I bet.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Everything here that I'm building is by tech, for a tech, by an educator, for an educator. Everything is what I wished I would have had at various parts of my radiology career. The things that we're working on right now is really trying to bridge the gap between simulation and real life. Because the thing about real life is that I'm not allowed to play on my real patients. I'm not allowed to make those mistakes, because if I make those mistakes, my real patient sues me or gets sick for radiation poisoning or whatever. The good thing about a simulator is that our patients, anything inside of the simulator that happens is in a risk-free environment. But the thing that we've kept having a hard time with is the lack of scanning real patients. We want to be able to scan real patients. We want to be able to make ScanLab exactly like real life.
Right, which is full of variables.
Exactly. And patients are full of variables. You don't know who you're going to get just because I'm looking at an electronic medical record of a patient. It doesn't tell me nearly what that patient is. I won't know who they are really until we're in the midst of doing the scan. And so with that being said, we kept on just kind of hitting a wall inside of ScanLab. A lot of what we had created are images that were previously acquired. But how do we really make something truly good and mimic the clinical environment? So what really that led us to is digital patients, and to be able to harness and capture the random nature of different patients and their different physiological profiles.
That's really intriguing. So you want to be able to, and you actually are recreating people, so digital twins, if you will.
That's exactly right.
It was not something that we at times thought was going to be possible, and a lot of people told us it wasn't going to be possible, so there was that. It's great to have a lot of confidence going into a new project, but it involved just a lot of research and kind of mapping out what the scope of the project would be, what the clinical capabilities that the patient would need to have to be able to replicate it. I prepared a little something to kind of be able to kind of walk you through where we started versus where we currently are now.
Well, I'd love to see it.
Well, let's go. The first thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to make this thing as medically accurate as possible. Now there are 3D humans that exist out there, and so we wanted to acquire and just see if we could acquire a patient, and are they specific enough to kind of work with. So you see this patient has their own skeletal system, this patient nervous system. It was really, really important for us to have, especially for phase 1 here, to be able to have the venous and the arterial system. Also, you see all the different muscles that we can be able to manipulate. These are all their own elements inside of an animation software. And so everybody, they have their own separate organs. And then we wanted to take it one step further, and different patients are different sizes, shapes, heights, weights, everything like that. So we wanted to take all of these and stretch them within the context of a digital family with various types of body habituses.
Yeah, to really replicate how variable humans really are.
Absolutely, from the inside out. But a lot of these things were not built to do the things that we wanted them to do. Like for instance, the azygous vein. Where is that? Where is it going? What's it attached to? When we opened a lot of these things up, they didn't exist. So that involved my team and I, with some help of radiologists, takes a village really, to make all of these things and stretch them and make them medically accurate. Because the idea is to take this and make the human look like a CT or look like an MRI to make it really believable and immersive.
Yeah, well that's a really big undertaking. How long did it take you guys to kind of bring all these layers together?
About 6 months for a single human. So I mean, you think of movies happening and 3 or 4 years in the background. I mean, now I understand that a little bit more. Some of the other elements inside of MRI that we wanted, and CT that we wanted to be able to show is having digital injectors that are injecting the MRI or CT contrast and the saline, as well as an interface. And then to be able to take those patients that you see randomly and to be able to interact with them inside of a digital, in this case, CT environment. So we want you to always kind of get in the habit of always seeing your patient, interacting with them like you would in real life. But at this point, this patient was just a hollow exoskeleton. But what we decided to try to do to be able to give this patient an actual working cardiovascular system was to go through point by point inside of, in this case, their arterial system, and be able to put, I mean, it started out as 15, 20 points of data, and as you can see, moved into the 60,000 ranges. So what we're doing here is programming the body to only, for any kind of fluid that's moving through there, to only be able to move in certain directions, which is exactly what your vascular system does by way of like valves and the normal normal things. We just had to do it a little differently. But you see, as a result of that, we can be able to, and I want this as my screensaver, to be honest, but we were able to give the patient a beating heart and take the different velocities that we know exist at different parts of the body because of MRI and ultrasound data, and to really start to be able to show what it would be like to inject contrast in the antecubital space and have it go through the body. Because that's the context that we want. We want to be able to do high-end cardiovascular studies. We want to be able to do high-end overall studies of your heart, of later on, who knows. But for now, we really wanted to start with a really complex nature of angiograms and cardiac studies. So the next step to that was we took that patient and we took them and put them into a 2D version of themselves, which is what we create on the CT and the MRI side. And then we took the different body parts and we started to make them look like a CT. So we took real CT images and we tried to make our own digital bone, and we started to make it look like the detail that you would see in real life. And so that's where we have ended, to be able to have a patient with a working heart with blood that moves through at the same speed or variant speed depending on that patient's intrinsic factors.
That's really impressive. What might be on the horizon?
I think the digital patients, I think they are the future of everything that we're doing, because it really does bridge that gap between does this feel fake and does this feel like real life. And I think that people being able to train, I think this will revolutionize training of MRI and CT, and also the physiology-based modalities like nuclear medicine, PET. All of those things are based off of patient physiology. And so the digital patient, I think the digital patient has places outside of healthcare that it can do. But if we have these 1 million different variants of the digital patient, and I can program their heart, or I can program any part of them to be able to behave a certain way, then we can perfectly replicate the clinical environment. We can simultaneously raise the quality of the people that are doing these scans, and we could make it to where you're all getting 30 years of patient interactions from home. Think about if I'm doing a really complex case, instead of stewing over it for the weekend, I can do 50 of them and walk into work on Monday feeling completely confident and empowered.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
Game changer.
That was really cool to see. The digital patient is awesome. Do you think that's something you could create for me?
Absolutely. So if you're willing, I have an idea that would allow me to kind of get to know who you are, and then that would allow us to 100%, well, as close as we possibly can, replicate you inside a ScanLab. Are you up for it?
I'm totally up for it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jenna.
How are you?
Good, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right, what took you so long? That drive?
Traffic,
Oh,
yeah,
got it.
traffic.
Thanks for coming. We're at Wake Radiology here. This is one of our clinical partners in North Carolina. Come on with me, let's get you started.
Let's get going.
All right. The big point of today is to be able to take you and make kind of a digital twin. So what we need to do is get you an ECG, get to know how your heart beats, get to know how you breathe, your pulse, all those things, so we can be able to make a digital Jenna inside a ScanLab.
Perfect. I'm excited. Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
You're so welcome. Go ahead and change from your waist up, and when you're done, just come on outside. I'll be waiting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
Ready to go?
I am.
All right, come on right with me. So, I'm gonna come right into the CT room.
Okay.
All right, and what I'll have you do, you're just gonna have a seat right here.
Okay.
You're gonna lay your head
Perfect.
right here, and
Yep.
your arms just right above your head.
Yep.
Okay?
Got it.
Okay, so just breathe nice and easy.
Yep.
And I'm just going to kind of get to know your heart and see how it's looking in terms of your beats per minute. So, you weren't lying.
I lost 100 pounds when I was 17.
Oh.
That's why, most likely.
Well, keep it up. My blood pressure's through the roof, the RSNA. Try to not talk for 30 seconds. We're just gonna go straight zen. Dear God, you're a cardiac dream. She does have a decent amount of variability though, which is great. All right, we're all done.
You guys are so obsessed with me.
That's all we could talk about. So now we know that you have a little bit of variability, which is, every human has a bit of variability inside their heart. So it beats, give or take, 42 beats per minute, but sometimes it's 38, sometimes it's 51. But that's completely normal. So now that we'll be able to program that inside of ScanLab, and just like I was saying before, you had a respiratory cycle of about 6 seconds. And since we're not having you like heavily panting if we're doing a chest or anything like that, then we'll be able to accurately simulate exactly how to scan you and how we would scan you in real life.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. But with no radiation.
Hey,
I mean,
I'll give you a high five for that.
it's pretty cool to think about the ability to be able to practice on your exact patient in the future before you would ever actually see them in real life, or that's what surgeons do. If we have these patients, these digital patients that have all these variables and the system is randomly grabbing someone new.
For you to practice on.
Exactly right. It completely mimics the real clinical environment. So.
Yeah, which is going to make everybody have a better experience,
exactly
and it's
right.
going to make the healthcare professionals operate more efficiently. The patient's going to feel more comfortable because they feel like the healthcare provider already knows
exactly
what to do. Right?
And you're walking in on Monday if you have a difficult patient.
This is the best
See?
exit I've ever experienced in my life. Can you just follow me around and help me up all day?
I'll be your hype man. I'll continue to put ECG leads on you.
I'm not going to know what to do with the rest of my day. How am I going to open doors? How am I going to have a seat without Matt?
You don't have normal people. You don't have normal people that are helping you and putting things on you all.
No, I'm not from the 1800s.
No,
that sounds lovely, except for the corset.
You just need better friends. So
We are back. That was fantastic. Thanks for taking the time, really. I wanted to show you, now that it's been a few days, what it is that we did and kind of how we make that meaningful within ScanLab.
I can't wait to see what you put together.
It's so good. So if you see, inside of ScanLab, we have an area where we can manage our patients. So first of all, we wanted to find your digital twin, and we wanted to add you, your first and your last name, to our repository for our female patient with your body habitus. So now we've added you. You're forever in the archives of ScanLab.
I'll live forever now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we all hope. So in this case, if I were to go through, what I'm looking to do now is to define the size of your chest, for instance. So if I go through, I can really take a tailored approach to be able to find where your chest is in 3D space. And this is one of the ways that we synchronize what it is that we're doing from a digital patient standpoint to real life. This is some footage of what I got from you being connected to the ECG machine at Wake Radiology. And so you could see here, you do have some variability. So you see your average is a 50 beat per minute, but you can go anywhere from 37 beats per minute to 41. So in this case, inside of ScanLab, now I say, manage patient physio. And a couple things, we type in your age. I mean, you look 24, but 34 is just...
That's a good guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, you were kind of, you took about 6 seconds to kind of just breathe in, breathe out, and get back to that area. Mm-hmm. And we measured your breath hold duration being about 27 seconds. So in real life, we'd be pretty great to scan, to be honest. So, but then we can go one step further, and what we've done here is to get to know your ECG. So I can be able to say, hey, your average heart rate was 41 beats per minute, so a wider difference between, a wider time between beats. But you did have some deviation. Your heart was jumping around a little bit. And also 1 in every 16 beats I saw, sometimes your heart had a little bit of, not an arrhythmic or an ectopic beat, but a little different from here. And so now you can see, when I've programmed you in and saved you, now you can see your heart rate is, there we go, that's that ectopic or that that beat that's a little bit outside.
It's actually keeping me
from a neuron.
alive because that's really low.
Yeah, it's good every now and again. Get some blood. But you can see something else as a representation of how your heart is actually behaving. And so now let's put it in the context of what it is that we're doing. So in this case, we just decided we are going to scan a CTA chest, or pulmonary embolism study. And this is the reason, so there we go. So it has chosen you as the digital patient. It's chosen your profile. So now we see we need to go in and we need to decide, in this case, how I want to scan you. Do I want to have your hands up, hands down, on your stomach, on your back? And I could scan you really the exact same way we did at Wake, or I could choose a different position.
That's really cool because, over time, like if you wanted to take a patient and try different positioning, then you kind of start learning, well, patients with these kinds of differences, right? Different kinds of variables, it's going to be better to scan them this way.
Yeah,
right?
And there's more than one way to scan
Right.
someone correctly. I mean, in terms of especially when it comes to the position.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see here, if you look, we have, in this case, you'll see as you are moving through the gantry, we are showing the digital patient versus the actual medical data that we've previously acquired. So now you have a digital X-ray or a digital scout, and the idea in real life is to go up and find your pulmonary artery. So we need to go up and find your pulmonary artery inside of the digital patient. And I believe, yeah, there we go. So you see that little split, that's your pulmonary artery, and this is your pulmonary trunk. So just like in real life, I'm going to put an ROI, a region of interest, inside, and that's going to help me know when the contrast has gotten to the vascular portion that we want to image. Because we want to take all of your pictures while that contrast that we've injected is temporarily inside of the vascular structure that we care about. So here we've taken the digital, we're loaded it with digital contrast. That's our dye. And now I'm going through and I am saying, hey, once we reach that specific brightness inside of your pulmonary artery, I want you to scan from here to here in these increments.
Yeah, that's when it's time to shine.
Yeah, and this is in a real life scenario. This is very stressful stuff because if I miss the bolus of contrast, I have to rescan it again. I have to re-inject. You could have false positives or false negatives. But in this case, this is really cool. When I go ahead and I start this, remember I measured how long it takes you to take in a breath and blow it out. So here you'll notice our digital patient is actually breathing and breathing according to your respiratory profile. And so now, if I were to start to inject, now you see the contrast actually came in to your through the digital patient based on your heart rate. It came in and allowed us to perfectly synthesize what happens in real life if I'm scanning a patient.
Which makes a lot of sense because everyone's vascular system is going to be a little different, right? Especially based on how quickly their heart is pumping.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to be filled with contrast at different times based on what kind of patient you are.
That's right. And we don't want you to get good at the examination. We want you to get good at the concept and being able to adjust based on the different internal intrinsic factors that your patient may present.
It helps you get familiar with different variables, right? Which is different people, different patients. So it takes you from not having any experience to having all the potential experiences you could have in a short period of time.
And meaningful experience of being able to not just be pushing buttons, but if I am pushing buttons and I'm making mistakes, I'm making mistakes in an environment where I can really learn from my mistakes. I'm not so upset that none of this stuff actually follows me home. I'm upset about it. This stuff, no, we want you to make mistakes. We want you to walk in scanning real patients, having basically the exact same scenarios thrown at you randomly inside of our patient library.
Well, that was really exciting. I can't believe you actually created a digital me. Well done.
Thanks for your interest in what we're doing and your willingness to go the extra mile and and help us get the information to make a digital you.
I cannot wait to see what's next for you. I know you're curious, so I know some new things are probably on the horizon. So I can't wait to see what's next and follow your journey. If people want to, if they learn something from this video and they're curious about ScanLab, MR, or CT, what's a good way for them to connect with you?
You can go to our website, and that's scanlabmr.com. That incorporates the MRI and CT. We're really responsive, but we're also ramping up our team throughout the world. So really excited for where we head in the future to make sure that these products can touch as many lives as possible and overall impact patient care.
Well, that's super exciting. So thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.